All right, happy Friday, everyone. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams for WLOX News Now. And this Friday, September 6th, we're taking a look at your latest weather forecast. Of course, risk of flooding as we watch the tropics in the Gulf and drier pattern over the weekend. And we'll also talk about how you can get a tropical system to quickly spin up along a front that's sitting out in the Gulf. So let's get right to some of our weather graphics here as we start off this video update. Hope you're doing well this Friday. One thing that's for sure, we are seeing a lot of wet weather, but put a positive spin on it, we're under a drought. So rain, when you're in a drought, is actually kind of beneficial as long as it doesn't cause any flooding. And let's look out the window right now. We'll take some of these cams full screen for you as we take a look over at the Silver Slipper in Hancock County. And we had some coastal flooding there earlier this week where the tidewaters washed ashore. But now the tidewaters appear to be behaving a bit better, just staying where they're supposed to be, out in the Sound. Meanwhile, raindrops in Gulfport on the cam lens as of the 8 o'clock hour on Friday morning. You can also see some rain near I-10 in Gulfport. And over Biloxi, the sky is pretty cloudy, and we've seen some recent showers there too. Now, one thing's for sure, there have been some incredible rain totals. I mean, take a look at the last 48 hours. Now, over most of the coast, rain amounts have only been around an inch once you go north of I-10. But for areas south of I-10, we've seen some pretty impressive rain totals based on radar estimates. And places between Pascagoula and Gulfport, we've seen about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So that goes for Goshen, Gulf Park Estates, Ocean Springs, St. Martin, Biloxi, parts of D'Iberville, parts of Wool Market, parts of Orange Grove. But once you go west of Gulfport, the rain was even heavier. Look at those totals near Long Beach to Pass Christian, Bay St. Louis, Waveland, 3 to 5 inches, maybe 3 to 6 inches of rain. And then that ridiculous rain total offshore of more than a foot of rain near Cat Island. So we are so fortunate that the coast was spared from that pretty problematic rain total that could have just as easily been our problem. It was a close call. That is why we are under a flood watch. We're under a flood watch because there is a potential to see some pretty heavy rain amounts. Now, this flood watch is almost done. We've been under it for several days now. Today is kind of the final full day of that, with Friday and Friday night. Once we get to Saturday, the flood watch will come to an end in the morning hours at 7 o'clock in the morning. And at that point, we'll finally begin a gradual transition to a less rainy and drier pattern into the rest of the weekend. But until then, plan on widespread rain for Friday morning and some rounds of on and off rain at times Friday midday, Friday afternoon. I think we could get more widespread rain Friday evening, Friday night. And then that cool front tries to move into the area, helping to dry things out. Here's a look at the first alert radar as of Friday morning, and you can see the Gulf of Mexico is chock full of rain shower activity in the northern part of the Gulf. That's because there's a stalled front there, and also that low pressure that we've been watching for many days this week. And as of the last 24 hours, the National Hurricane Center is giving it a chance to become a depression or storm. They call it Invest 90L. You know, we explain what that means pretty often. They use the word invest because they are investigating the chance of development. They pick a number, 90 through 99, and give it a number. And they put a letter on the end of it. Since this is in the Atlantic basin, they put an L there. The Gulf, Caribbean, Atlantic are all a part of the Atlantic basin. If it were on the other side of North America, in the Pacific by Mexico, it will be in the East Pacific. So they actually use an E. And then if it were farther out in the Pacific, like maybe west of Hawaii or something, or near Hawaii, I believe they give it a P as far as the letter is concerned. So you can have a L, a E, or a P. depending on where the tropical disturbance is located. This one's not moving much. It hasn't really moved much. It's been this little swirl of low pressure in the Gulf for most of the week, and it's because there's a stalled front. And that's what we're going to talk about now. How can a tropical system spin up along a stationary front? So first of all, you have to remember what a front is. A front is a boundary between two different air masses. North of a front, typically in our part of the country, you're going to find less humid and less warm air. And south of a front, you're going to find more humid and warmer air in our part of the country. And that's also driven by wind direction and wind speed, because to the north of a front, you're going to have winds coming in from the north. And to the south of a front, you're going to have winds coming in from the south. And those winds kind of clash or converge near the frontal boundary. That front is at the planet's surface. So you've got a couple of things going on, because when winds are crashing at the surface, well, they can't go down underground, so they actually begin to go up, and that's what leads to cloud and rain development along the frontal boundary, because you have those converging winds which lead to rising air currents, lifting air, and that leads to the development of clusters of rain showers and storms along the front. So you can kind of already have the ingredients in place to make for wet weather along the front. But also, sometimes, depending on the angle that the winds are coming in at, I kind of have a more simplistic view here. You can see that sometimes you can get just a little bit of a swirl where those converging winds meet. Sometimes they can cause a swirl to spin up along that. And when you have that swirl of low pressure, because that's all a front is just an elongated area of low pressure. And when you have a swirl of low pressure along that front, that when it sits over warm water like the Gulf, which is some of the warmest water out there in the Atlantic basin right now, that can really help tropical development to get going. And there's a lot of ingredients there to create a depression or storm. Now, with this particular front, there's actually multiple swirls along that boundary. And if I go back a few graphics, where we have the satellite and first alert radar in motion, should go back one more time. I'm clicking the clicker and it's, okay, there we go. So this should have that in motion, I believe, and you'll be able to see a few areas where there are some swirls of rain and clouds. Of course, the one that the National Hurricane Center is tracking with the big red L on it, south of Texas coast. But there's also another one right below the Louisiana coast. If you look very closely, right below where the N in New Orleans is, there's a little bit, or just below and maybe to the left of where the N in New Orleans is, there's a little bit of a swirl there as well. I think I see another one south of the Florida Panhandle where you see some lightning happening. There's almost a little swirl of low pressure weak there. And then on the other side of Florida, where the V is in Jacksonville on the map, you can almost see another little swirl of low pressure there too. So multiple little swirls that you kind of have to watch this time of year in hurricane season in case they try to quickly spin up a swirl of low pressure that can become a tropical system. Now, there's a bunch of other factors that you need to create a tropical system. One of them is you don't need wind shear. What's that? Wind shear are strong winds upstairs in the air that can disrupt a circulation trying to spin. And I think that's what we're going to have here. So that's why we're not talking about watching this development to quickly blow up to become some monster Category 5 storm or something like that, because there's a bunch of wind shear that's helping to limit development. So that's good. However, even though you won't get some huge hurricane out of this, maybe you might get a depression or a weak tropical storm. But where's the wind circulation going? Well, the models show that it will sit and meander south of Louisiana's coast as we go through Saturday. And maybe it might just kind of barely drift slightly to the west of that as we go to Sunday. So not really a lot of motion there. And you never really see those purple colors indicating 70-mile-an-hour winds. You don't see white colors indicating 100-mile-an-hour winds. The colors you're seeing are blue on our Mississippi coast, indicating winds of 20 miles an hour or less. And closer to where we have highlighted on the map, you only see colors of like green, maybe briefly yellow or orange, indicating winds between 30 and 50 miles an hour, which, like I said, would be a depression or a weak tropical storm, if that. You'll notice that that area of low pressure never comes up to our Mississippi coast. So that's why the impacts that we're talking about here have nothing to do with wind. We're more focused on the rain. That's why we've been under a flood watch for multiple days. Our expectation of what we're looking at weather-wise has not changed. We're looking at rain. We're looking at the risk of flooding because the rain could be heavy at times. And this is a look at that futurecast, which shows that abundant moisture on the coast. However, things could change into the weekend. We are tracking a front coming in from the north, and it's got a ton of dry air associated with it, and that is still on the way. Now, if you look at the details, it's a possibility that maybe the air might not be as dry as initially expected. I think it will still be like a crisp fall day by the time we get to Sunday, but maybe not a very long-lasting round of that dry air, and maybe not as dry as initially expected. Before we get to the dry, we have to go through the wet, and that's why your Friday is chock full of rain showers. You can see that those high rain chances will be with us all day long. If you want to get cute with it, there is a chance that maybe there's a lull or a break in the rain in the middle of the day, sometime around 11 o'clock, noon, 1 p.m. Our modeling has been showing many spots with breaks from the rain. However, I don't think that's going to last forever, especially as we get deeper into the afternoon and the evening. We will likely see another round of widespread rain. So if you have some Friday evening plans, if you have some Friday night plans, I know there's Friday night football, you want to plan on wet weather. Don't be deceived by a possible break in the middle of the day and assume that that break will continue tonight. I don't think that's how that's going to wind up. I do think we will see another round of widespread showers into the afternoon and the evening, and we want to be mindful that there could be some flooding at times from some of that. But the general trend is for a decreasing rain chance. As you can see today, 90%, tonight 80%, tomorrow 50%, and then tomorrow night all the way down to 20%. So we are gradually going to see an end to this wet pattern as we go into the weekend, but we just have to be patient for that. It's not going to happen all of a sudden today. And even as you go to Saturday, you'll notice that 50%, that's actually an increase from what I was forecasting on yesterday. Yesterday's forecast for Saturday called for, I think, a 30% chance of rain, and now it's come up to 50% because it's a possibility along our coastal counties, Jackson, Harrison, Hancock. We could see some scattered showers, especially in the morning hours on Saturday. If you're inland tomorrow, on Saturday for areas like Stone County, you might not get a whole bunch of rain there. And then you go to Sunday, and it looks like it's much drier for us as that front moves in from the north, but it could be a close call. This map for Sunday, as you look at it, I'll make it a bit bigger on your screen, and you'll notice that it doesn't really show much rain on Sunday, but if we take that map full screen and zoom it out, the full story is told that, yeah, it might be dry on our Mississippi coast on Sunday, but it's a close call to an absolute washout, as there will still be plenty of rain sitting out in the Gulf with that tropical disturbance. So I'm hopeful that the forecast won't change and that we can keep it dry for you on Sunday, but just know that it is going to be a close call. And if that rain is closer to our coast than expected, maybe there's a few showers at times on Sunday. That's why we are not going with a 0% chance on Sunday, but instead a 20% chance of rain on Sunday in case some of those showers are a little bit closer than expected. Because there will be more sun on Sunday, I think you'll see warmer temperatures. We'll see highs in the mid-80s, and the air will feel drier too. I mean, there will be a noticeably crisp feel. Now, when we showed this dew point trend the other day, that dot for Sunday was way down in the pleasant category. Today, the models are backing off on how dry it might feel on Sunday, and hopefully they don't continue to back off. Hopefully this is about as far as they go. If that's the case, then it is looking like a really pleasant and comfortable day for Sunday with a crisp fall feel in the air. It does not last long. You go to Monday, it's already turning slightly muggier. And then by the middle of next week, we're back to whatever kind of mugginess we have now. So be sure to enjoy that feel because it's fleeting while supplies last next week. Here's a more detailed view of that. Remember the dew point number? The higher this number, the muggier it feels. The lower this number, the drier it feels. And today they're way up in the 70s, so it is going to be a muggy Friday with all those showers. Tomorrow, we're still seeing muggy air, dew points in the 70s for most areas. Although inland, you might begin to get just a hint that it's less muggy in places like Poplarville and Wiggins. Now, on Sunday, during the first part of the day, Sunday morning, break out the PSLs, right? I mean, we got dew points way down into the 60s and 50s, so that's probably as dry as it's going to be for us during the first part of the day on Sunday. You can plan on it feeling really crisp for what we've been used to recently. But then you go to Sunday afternoon, and some of our information is suggesting that we could begin to see some of the mugginess try to slowly return as we get closer to next week. So that's why I said while Sunday could still have that kind of pleasant, crisp feel at times, it might not be the entire day. And it's not as much as we were originally thinking. I thought we would see dew points everywhere in the lower 50s. Because the air is not as muggy, maybe some of those temperatures won't be as cool. I think we'll still see 60s everywhere on Sunday morning, which if we do, that'll be the first time since June that places like Gulfport, Biloxi will have 60s. And it's actually pretty typical to see your first round of post-August 60s in early September. That's exactly what happened last year and the year before. So if we do that again this year, it would fall right in line with the last few years. But your 7-day forecast beyond the dry Sunday gradually gets us back into some more moisture by Monday, with only a 30% chance of rain on Monday, and then a 40% or higher chance of rain as we go to next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Going to probably be a kind of repeat pattern. That's what it looks like early on right now, at least. We go to next week, and it's going to be another situation where we see multiple days of Gulf moisture bringing us a chance of rain showers. And even though today those rain chances say 40%, if we continue to monitor the trends and get higher confidence that we'll see that kind of wet setup next week, then those 40% will go up to a higher chance, and maybe they'll be as high as today, where they're greater than 50, greater than 60, or so on and so forth. So that's a look at your weekend outlook, as in addition to the potential for tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico and the possibility of some drier feeling air for Sunday. I hope that you make plans on Sunday to spend time outdoors, especially in the morning, to take advantage of that fleeting fall feel across parts of coastal Mississippi. Well, that'll do it for your Digital Desk Update. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams here on your Friday, September 6th. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, and have a great weekend, everyone.